The confession that changed how the world sees LeBron James. For more than 2 decades, LeBron James has been known as the man who had the answers. The superstar who carried teams, broke records, built an empire, and controlled every detail of his legacy. But behind the championships, the millions of dollars, and the image of the unstoppable king, LeBron just revealed something deeply personal that made people see him in a completely different way. And the surprising part, he didn't reveal it in a press conference. He didn't say it after a championship. He didn't say it during a heated NBA interview. He sat across from the woman who has been beside him through every chapter of his life, his wife, Savannah James. On her own podcast, in a moment that felt far more personal than anything fans usually hear from LeBron, the NBA legend opened up about the challenges of building a family when 2 people come from completely different backgrounds. And one small detail from that conversation caught everyone's attention. A garage door code. It sounds simple, almost meaningless, but coming from LeBron James, it represented something much bigger. For a man who spent his entire career protecting his privacy, controlling his image, and carrying the weight of expectations from millions of fans around the world, giving someone full access to his personal space was more than just sharing a number. It was about trust. It was about letting someone else into a world that LeBron had spent years building around himself. LeBron admitted that when he and Savannah started their life together, he was learning things about family and partnership that she already understood. Savannah grew up in a household with 2 parents and siblings around her. LeBron's childhood was completely different. He was raised as an only child in a single-parent household, and he never had the same blueprint for family life that Savannah brought to their relationship. That difference shaped everything, because before LeBron became a billionaire athlete, before he became the NBA's all-time leading scorer, before the championships and the global fame, he was just a teenager from Akron trying to figure out life with another teenager who believed in him before the world did. But this story is not just about LeBron's confession. It's also about Savannah finally telling her side of the story. For years, the world saw her as the woman standing next to one of the greatest basketball players ever. But behind the scenes, Savannah was fighting her own battle. She admitted that becoming a mother so young and building a life around LeBron's career caused her to lose parts of herself along the way. She had to discover who Savannah James was beyond being LeBron's wife and the mother of his children. And that's what makes this story so powerful. Because the biggest lesson from the James family is not about perfection. It's about growth. It's about 2 young people who started with different experiences, faced unbelievable pressure, and somehow learned how to grow together instead of growing apart. But the question everyone is asking now is this: how did 2 teenagers from Akron, Ohio build one of the strongest relationships in sports history while living under the brightest spotlight in the world? To understand LeBron's confession today, we have to go back to where everything started before the fame, before the championships, before the world knew the name LeBron James, and before anyone understood just how much Savannah James would mean to his legacy. If you have followed LeBron's journey and believe the story behind the superstar matters just as much as what happens on the court, comment below where you are watching from. I want to know what city or country is joining us today. And if you think LeBron and Savannah's story is one of the most inspiring relationships in sports, press 1. If you think every superstar has a hidden story the world rarely sees, press 2. Before the crown, there were just 2 kids from Akron, long before the world called him King James, before the billions of dollars, before the championships, and before every decision he made became national news. LeBron James was just a teenager trying to understand what his future would become. And standing beside him was another teenager who had no idea that the boy she was getting to know would eventually become one of the greatest athletes in history. Their story did not begin inside an NBA arena. It did not begin with fame, luxury, or celebrity events. It started in Akron, Ohio. In 2002, LeBron was a 17-year-old basketball phenomenon at St. Vincent Street Mary High School. Everyone around the country was already talking about him. He was being called a future NBA superstar before he had even graduated high school. But to Savannah James, he was not a global icon. He was just LeBron, a young guy trying to make an impression. Savannah was only 16 years old at the time, attending a rival high school. Their worlds were connected through basketball, friends, and the small-town environment of Akron. But what makes their story different is that Savannah met LeBron before the fame changed everything. She did not meet the superstar. She met the person. Years later, Savannah would jokingly remind people that LeBron was the one who pursued her. She would say, "He met me, I didn't meet him." That small comment reveals something important about their relationship. Before LeBron James became the face of the NBA, he was simply a young man trying to win over the girl he liked. Their first date was not some extravagant celebrity experience. There were no cameras following them. No headlines, no fans waiting outside. It was just two teenagers going to Outback Steakhouse and figuring out whether they connected. But even back then, Savannah noticed something about him. She noticed the way he carried himself. She noticed his respect. LeBron has often talked about how important family was to him, even though his own childhood did not look like the traditional family structure Savannah experienced. When he first met Savannah's family, he understood that earning their trust mattered. He wasn't just trying to impress a girl, he was trying to show respect to the people who mattered to her. That mindset would follow him for decades, because the same young man who wanted Savannah's family to accept him would later become the husband who admitted he had to learn how to build the kind of family structure she already understood. But their journey was about to become much more complicated, because while LeBron was preparing to enter the NBA and carry the expectations of an entire generation, he and Savannah were facing something no teenager should have to navigate under normal circumstances. They were about to become parents. Suddenly, their teenage relationship became a life-changing responsibility. The world was watching LeBron's basketball future, but behind closed doors, he was preparing for a completely different challenge. Growing up, becoming a father, becoming someone who could provide stability for another person. And that was the moment their relationship changed forever. Because LeBron was no longer just chasing his dream, he was building a reason to succeed beyond himself. The pressure was enormous. Every game LeBron played was analyzed. Every mistake was criticized. Every decision became part of a public conversation. But while fans debated whether he could become the next NBA legend, Savannah was seeing a different side of him. She was seeing the young man behind the spotlight, the person who was still learning, the person who still had questions, and perhaps the most important question of all was this: could a teenager who grew up without a traditional family structure create one of the strongest families in professional sports? The answer would take more than talent. It would require patience, sacrifice, and two people willing to grow together, because the real challenge was not becoming LeBron James the basketball player. The real challenge was becoming LeBron James the husband and father, and that journey was only beginning. When a teenager had to learn how to become a man, when people look at LeBron James today, they see the finished product, the championships, the records, the millions of fans around the world who call him one of the greatest basketball players ever. But what many people forget is that before LeBron became an NBA legend, he was a teenager, forced to grow up faster than almost anyone around him. At an age when most young people were still trying to discover themselves, LeBron was carrying expectations that would have crushed many adults. The entire basketball world was waiting for him. He was labeled the chosen one before he even played his first NBA game. Every performance was judged. Every mistake was magnified. Every decision became a headline. But while the world was focused on his basketball future, LeBron was dealing with something far more personal. He was becoming a father, and that changed everything. Because suddenly, the young superstar from Akron was not only responsible for chasing his own dreams, he was responsible for creating security and stability for someone else. This is the part of LeBron's story that is often overlooked. People talk about his work ethic, his training, his basketball intelligence, and his obsession with greatness. But behind all of that was something deeper, a fear. A fear of failing the people who depended on him. Growing up, LeBron experienced a childhood that was very different from Savannah's. He knew what it felt like to face uncertainty. He knew what it meant to grow up without the traditional family structure that many children experience. And because of that, building a strong family became more than just a personal goal. It became part of his identity. Savannah entered the relationship with experiences LeBron did not have. She understood the rhythm of a household with parents, siblings, and a sense of family structure. LeBron had to learn those things in real time. He was not following a perfect blueprint. He was creating one. And that is where the relationship between LeBron and Savannah became different from many celebrity relationships. They were not two fully developed adults who met after already understanding life. They were two young people growing up together. They were learning responsibility together. They were making mistakes together. They were figuring out adulthood while the entire world was watching. When LeBron entered the NBA, the pressure increased instantly. The spotlight became brighter. The criticism became louder. But behind the scenes, Savannah remained one of the few people who knew the real person behind the superstar image. She knew the teenager before the fame. She knew the young man before the championships. She knew LeBron before the world decided who he was supposed to be. And that connection became one of the strongest foundations of their relationship. Because fame can change people. Money can change people. Success can change people. But Savannah was connected to the version of LeBron that existed before all of that. The person, not the brand, not the athlete, not the global icon, just LeBron. Over time, that became one of the biggest reasons their relationship survived the challenges that came with NBA greatness. Because the higher LeBron climbed, the more important it became to have someone around him who remembered where he started. Someone who could remind him that life was bigger than basketball. Someone who understood that the man wearing the jersey was only one part of the story. But while LeBron was building his career, Savannah was quietly building something just as important: a home, a family. a foundation that could survive the chaos surrounding one of the most famous athletes on earth, and that role came with sacrifices most people never saw. Because every championship has a story. Every record has a story, and behind LeBron James's incredible career was another story happening away from the cameras, a woman adjusting her life, a family adapting to change, and two young people trying to prove that love could survive when the entire world was watching. But as LeBron's fame grew, the pressure on Savannah grew too, because becoming the wife of an NBA superstar meant entering a world where every decision could be criticized, every move could be judged, and every personal moment could become public conversation. The next chapter of their story would reveal the person who carried the weight behind the scenes, the woman who helped build the foundation of the James family, Savannah James, the woman who built the foundation behind the king. While the world watched LeBron James chase championships, break records, and become one of the most recognizable athletes on the planet, another story was happening quietly behind the scenes. A story about sacrifice. A story about patience. A story about a woman who helped build stability while everything around her kept changing. Savannah James was there before the fame, before the billion-dollar empire, before the sold-out arenas and worldwide attention. She knew LeBron when he was just a teenager from Akron with a dream. And when that dream became reality, her life changed too. Because becoming the partner of an NBA superstar meant entering a world where nothing stayed normal. Every season brought new pressure. Every playoff run brought new expectations. Every decision LeBron made affected the entire family. When LeBron moved teams, Savannah moved with him. When his career demanded sacrifices, the family adjusted. From Cleveland to Miami, from Miami back to Cleveland, then eventually to Los Angeles. For years, LeBron's career determined the map of their lives, and Savannah became the person who helped make every transition possible. But the difficult part was that her sacrifices often happened away from the spotlight. Fans saw LeBron walking onto the court. They saw the highlights, they saw the trophies, they saw the interviews after historic performances, but they did not always see the person making sure everything at home remained steady. Savannah became the foundation. She helped raise their children while LeBron traveled across the country competing at the highest level of basketball. She helped create a normal environment for Bronny, Bryce, and Jury, despite their father being one of the most famous people alive. And that challenge was bigger than most people realize. Growing up as the children of LeBron James could have easily created a life surrounded by pressure and expectation. But Savannah and LeBron worked to make sure their kids understood something important. Their last name did not define them. Their effort did. That approach became one of the strongest examples of Savannah's influence. She was not simply supporting LeBron's career. She was protecting the family behind the career. But over time, Savannah realized something important. While she was helping everyone else grow, she also needed to grow herself. For many years, the public identity of Savannah James was connected almost entirely to LeBron. She was known as the superstar's wife, the mother of his children, the woman standing beside him. And while she embraced those roles, there was another side of her story that the public rarely saw. A woman trying to understand who she was beyond her family's success. That realization became one of the most honest parts of her journey. Savannah admitted that becoming a mother so young and building her entire life around LeBron's career caused her to lose parts of herself. She loved her family. She supported her husband, but she also wanted to discover her own voice. And that is where Savannah's next chapter began. Not as someone stepping away from LeBron, but as someone finally stepping forward as herself. Her podcast, business projects, and personal goals became proof that she was no longer only defined by the person beside her. She was building her own identity. And perhaps the most powerful part of Savannah's story is that she never saw personal growth as a rejection of her family. She saw it as becoming a better version of herself for the people she loved. Because a strong relationship is not built by two people who disappear into each other, it is built by two people who continue growing while choosing each other every day. And that lesson would become one of the biggest reasons the James family survived decades of pressure. Because behind every championship celebration, there was a family working together. And behind LeBron James, there was Savannah James. But even the strongest relationships face challenges. And in the next chapter, the world would discover the truth. LeBron himself admitted that even one of the most successful couples in sports history was never perfect. The truth behind the perfect image. For years, fans looked at LeBron James and Savannah James as the perfect sports couple. High school sweethearts. 2 decades together. 3 children. A family that survived fame, pressure, and constant public attention. But LeBron eventually revealed something important. Their relationship was never perfect, and that honesty is exactly what made people respect them more. Because behind every successful relationship are challenges that the public never see. LeBron admitted that marriage requires work. It requires patience. It requires 2 people willing to grow. The biggest challenge was that they were not the same people they were when they first met. LeBron became one of the most famous athletes in history. Savannah became a mother, a partner, and the person helping keep the family stable. They both changed. But instead of growing apart, they learned how to grow together. LeBron's greatest fear was never losing a basketball game. It was losing the family he worked so hard to build. Growing up without a traditional family structure shaped his desire to create something different for his own children. A home filled with support, a place where his kids could feel secure. And Savannah became a major part of that mission. Their story was never about being flawless. It was about commitment, about choosing each other even when life became complicated. Because real relationships are not built by avoiding problems. They are built by facing them together. Savannah James found her own identity. For many years, the world knew Savannah James only as LeBron James's wife. But behind that title was a woman with her own dreams and struggles. Savannah became a mother at a young age. While LeBron was building an NBA career, she was building a family. She supported him, she raised their children, she created stability through every change. But over time, Savannah realized something important. She had spent years taking care of everyone else while trying to understand herself. She wanted to know who she was beyond being a wife and a mother. That journey was not about leaving her family behind. It was about becoming stronger for herself and the people she loved. Through her podcast, business projects, and personal goals, Savannah created her own platform, her own voice, her own identity. And LeBron's support showed something powerful. A strong partner does not need to control the spotlight. Sometimes the greatest support is allowing someone else to shine. Savannah's story became a reminder that personal growth does not weaken relationships. It can make them strong, because two people do not have to disappear into each other to build something lasting. They can grow individually while still choosing each other. How LeBron learned the power of listening. Throughout his basketball career, LeBron James has always been known as someone who controls the moment. He controls the game. He controls preparation. He controls expectations. But marriage requires a different kind of strength. Sometimes strength means listening. When Savannah opened up about her personal struggles, LeBron did something many people find difficult. He allowed her story to exist. He did not try to rewrite it. He did not try to make it about himself. He supported her honesty. That showed a different side of LeBron. The young player who entered the NBA wanted to prove himself to the world. The older, LeBron understood that he did not always need to have the answer. He could simply be human. The small moments revealed the biggest changes. A public message of support. A willingness to acknowledge his wife's growth. A decision to let Savannah speak in her own voice. After more than 20 years together, their greatest achievement was not only basketball success, it was learning how to continue choosing each other. Because lasting relationships are not built on perfection. They are built on understanding. The final chapter of LeBron's NBA journey. For more than 2 decades, basketball has been the center of LeBron James' life. It shaped his identity. It created his legacy. It made him one of the most recognized athletes on earth. But every great career eventually reaches the same question: what happens next? As LeBron enters the later stages of his NBA journey, the conversation is no longer only about statistics. It is about priorities. It is about family. It is about the future. For years, Savannah adjusted her life around LeBron's basketball career. Every move, every city, every new challenge, but now the balance may be changing. The next decision will not only affect LeBron, it will affect Savannah, it will affect their children. It will affect the life they built together. That is what makes this moment different. Early in his career, LeBron was chasing great. Now, he is protecting legacy. And legacy is not only measured by championships, it is measured by the people who remain beside you when the spotlight fades. The next chapter of LeBron James's life may not be defined by another trophy. It may be defined by what he chooses after basketball. LeBron James's greatest legacy may not be basketball. When people discuss LeBron James, they usually mention the numbers. 4 championships, multiple MVP awards, all-time scoring records, historic performances, and those achievements are incredible. But the story of LeBron James has always been bigger than basketball. Because the greatest challenge was never becoming a superstar. The greatest challenge was becoming the type of person who could handle everything that came with being one. The fame, the criticism, the pressure, the expectations, and through all of it, one thing remained consistent: family. LeBron wanted to create something he did not always experience growing up: a stable home, a supportive environment, a place where his children could grow without being defined only by his name. That may become his greatest achievement. Not a record, not a trophy, but a family that understands success is about character. The James family story reminds people that even extraordinary individuals face ordinary struggles. They argue, they grow, they change, they learn. And that is what makes their story relatable. Because behind every superstar is a human being. The real lesson from LeBron and Savannah's journey. The story of LeBron James and Savannah James was never truly about a perfect marriage. It was about an honest one. 2 teenagers from Akron started a journey before they understood what life would become. They faced fame, they faced pressure, they faced moments where they had to rediscover themselves. But they continued choosing growth. And perhaps that is the biggest lesson from their story. Success does not eliminate challenges. Money does not remove struggles. Fame does not make relationships easier. Every person, no matter how successful, must continue learning how to communicate, support, and understand the people they love. LeBron's confession showed vulnerability. Savannah's honesty showed courage. Together, they showed that strong relationships are not built by pretending everything is perfect. They are built by accepting imperfections and working through them. The greatest athletes are remembered for what they accomplish, but the greatest people are remembered for what they build. LeBron James built a basketball legacy, but he also built a family legacy. A legacy where his children saw dedication, where his wife found her own voice, where success was measured by more than trophies. The final lesson is simple. You do not have to have a perfect journey to create something meaningful. You just have to keep growing, keep learning, keep showing up. Because at the end of the day, the biggest victories in life are not always displayed on a scoreboard. They are found in the relationships we protect and the people we become. If you enjoyed this story about the human side of NBA greatness, make sure to subscribe to the channel for more NBA stories, player journeys, and the moments behind the headline. Like this video, share it with other basketball fans, and leave a comment below. Do you think LeBron James' greatest legacy will be his basketball achievements or the family he built away from the court? Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next NBA story.